This motion painting has gone through a few different changes. This is the last one that I've created because it has, unlike the other versions, it has oil paint that I've added on to 1/4-inch Luan, plus various elements on it. You can see 4x4 1/4-inch Luan in the center, 2 smaller panels, 1/2-inch waffle board on the bottom and to the right of that, and odds and ends here and there, not very important to specify them. But the more recent addition is the black tar paper that I cut up and added on it, and I'm not sure what all that's about. If it needs to be about anything, probably is somewhere, but where, I don't know. It may be linked to one of the themes that I developed many years ago, namely my inability to hold on to anything for any length of time, that everything I touched in some way seemed to disappear or dissolve or change to a point where it became unrecognizable. But in terms of my artwork, I felt that this impulse in some of the pieces that I did 30 years ago, where I had a negative image of tape holding something integrated in some way into the painting. None of this is particularly interesting, but there's a sense of falling. The black pieces are expanded versions of the disturbances that buzz around the psyche all the time. Small thoughts that keep coming back maybe, or recur in some manner. Sometimes welcome, sometimes not, but that have been enlarged into a kind of a different space, really. Maybe it harks back to the dissected apple in red oil paint underneath the small rectangle, which has impressions of animation receding to the right, top right. So I don't know where these black pieces come, harbinger of death, ending, falling, changing, maybe. Don't get esoteric with this, it's not worth it. But there's obviously a sexual content to this. More dramatic in the earlier versions. Kind of a little bit embarrassing, annoying to me. And so once I became aware of this annoyance, not a serious one, but enough to suggest some kind of modification, I found something in the background, a gray presence in the trees, black and white trees in the background, light shade of gray, which I liked. And when I tried various things, but when that was supered over or under the oil paint, particularly in the central panel, the 4x4 rectangle, there's a softness there, kind of an impressionistic softness there that I really like, particularly with the yellow oil paint mixed into this and the darker oranges, browns, a little bit of green and blue, which is suggestive to me of filtering sunlight behind a tree at sunrise or sunset. Anyway, there's a warmth there that I like, and so I've kept it. Let's see, the panel on the bottom, a lot of these elements that I've used In this case, probably 6 or 7 of them were at one time or another used for other motion paintings. And I, just in kind of a trial and error, what would happen if process, what if I put it there, what if I put it here, what if I turned it upside down or moved it. I eventually found something that seemed to adhere to the totality of the work. In some way was integrated and yet separate to the work. So a kind of internal, what would the word be, element that is and is not part of the visual perception. And that brings up, I think, an element of my work, all of my work, which is that, on a simple level, everything is and is not what it is. So, for example, the interpretation or the perception of the tree in the background, the gray image of the tree, which is from a photograph that was in color at one point, that was added in the work, you could argue is a tree, but it's not really a tree. You could argue it's a gray tree. No, it's not. It's a projection that looks like a tree in black and white, and that has surviving elements of tree-ness. That's an awkward way of phrasing that. But by the same token, the apple dissecting with intimations of motion there, animation, is not an apple, it's paint. It is what it is, it's paint, but it's paint and it's also not paint. It's not paint in the sense that it's a recognizable shape or form or a memory or a hope or what you will, that's interpreted, understood, appreciated or not by the viewer. So in a sense, everything on that surface is and is not. So it's open to possibilities. Let's put it that way. And the possibilities can't be too fixed. If they're fixed, in my opinion, they destroy the possibility of creativity. So, and any work of art that I've seen that is in a way fixed and not open, doesn't have that kind of fluidity, openness, is not particularly interesting. I feel that about much of the paintings that I see, but not all of them. There's a sense in which they have to be open to space, to time, to stillness, to motion, and several kinds of motion, not simply the motion painting which has or may incorporate some motion, but the motion of the moment, of duration, the motion that happens that never repeats. Even though it may cycle, it never repeats. Nothing ever repeats, if you think about it, except a fixed idea or a principle or a system that's made for robots, not humans. So much for AI. AI will never replace art. It can't. It doesn't have a heart. It's that simple. And I'm not saying that elephants can't paint, but yes, they can, and they have a heart. So, let's see, where do I go with this? I'm not sure I want to go anywhere else. The work itself, I like. It has several levels. It changes and yet it doesn't. So an artist that I like, Le, who's a friend of mine, says his work is about, quote, in between, explores in between. And I understand, I think, what that means. I would rather say They are shifts of perception. And the shifts of perception are available notwithstanding the imperative of time and space, seemingly imperative of time and space. Imperative in the sense that, is there a way of stepping outside of time and space? And in my opinion, I think there is. And I mentioned this in some other video. I mentioned this, I think it was Philip Guston who said, in some way art exists outside of time and space. So I sense that very, very deeply. I think it's what I call the stillness. I describe my motion paintings as aspects of now in duration. And these aspects of now, the duration, of course, allows for change, but it doesn't allow necessarily, in my case it doesn't, because I'm not interested in narrative development. What you see is what you get, but what you get is always different, depending on the moment, the mood, what you had for breakfast, your state of mind, perception, attention, for sure, and all of the rest of the stuff that you may want to include in the kitchen sink. So I think I'm done with this, and maybe I'm done with this, I'm not sure, but for now I'm done.